Hello, and welcome to Spotlight on the Divorce Expert. And today we have somebody who I have done training with, and I know the phenomenal support that he offers individuals because I use it with some of my clients as well. And that is Dr. Mort Orman. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Dr. Mort. He is a leading expert in emotional mastery, specializing in empowering married and divorced individuals to eliminate unhealthy anger for good without years of therapy or anger management programs. As a matter of fact, I know Dr. Mort is going to talk about why we don't talk about anger management when we're working.
We can talk about it. I just don't recommend it.
It just doesn't really work. All right. Yes. So Dr. Mort also is an award-winning author of 26 books and the founder of Orman Life Mastery Institute. And I know that you have worked with a lot of people over your life on this, and this has really become your area of expertise. So Dr. Mort, how did I think you were an internal medicine specialist, right?
I still am.
Okay. Yes. As a medical doctor, what got you so interested in focusing on anger?
Well, I mean, as a young man, I had a lot of anger. As I went through my medical training and opened my solo practice of internal medicine, I was a very angry young man, and I couldn't control it. And I tried all the standard stuff, the anger management stuff and the stress management stuff that I had learned about. It didn't really help all that much. I mean, every day I woke up, I was the same angry guy. It's funny, my birthday is February 2nd, and it's a Groundhog's Day, and it literally was that experience. It's like it's the same every day.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
I got triggered very easily. I even get angry at my patients when they wouldn't follow my advice or they would make bad decisions, which people are prone to do. So it was something. It was just something I was not proud of. I was not happy about, and it ruined all my relationships. I mean, I went from one relationship to another to another. They would start out, wonderful, lots of promise, lots of good feelings on both sides, and then it would eventually spiral downhill, and then we'd separate because, anger would just come up, and other relationship issues would come up, and so I had one failed relationship after another. So that I wasn't happy about.
Right.
And I knew the anger played a role in that. And then the other interesting piece is, when you're a doctor taking care of patients, we take care of a large group of people, and you can easily tell the angry people from the not so angry people. And then we're in a unique position because we get to see what happens over time in terms of people's health status and other things that they come in and tell us about. They get divorced, or a business partnership breaks up because of somebody got in a fight with somebody, or they land in jail, or something happens related to their anger. They get addicted to alcohol or some other substance. So you're seeing this pattern of watching the angry group in your practice have all these bad things happen to them, health-wise and life-wise. And I'm sitting there as a young man with my own anger thinking, I don't want to end up like this.
Yeah.
So that's what really got me motivated. And also the failure of all the standard, anger management approaches to enable me to fix myself. And I was used to solving problems. So I was very successful at solving other people's problems.
Right.
I just couldn't solve my own when it came to my emotions and relationships. So it was very frustrating because I was used to succeeding when I faced a problem and figured out what's going on and deal with it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working here. So that drove me into personal development work because I knew that I didn't get these answers in medical training. And I was reading a lot of self-help books and, it wasn't helping. So I decided to do some personal development work. And that's where over a couple years, I pieced together things from different programs and eventually figured out where my anger was coming from that nobody had ever taught me.
Right.
And that made all the difference in the world. And finally, I was able to do something about my anger for the first time. And that was over 40 years ago. And that's what I've been writing about and teaching people how to do. I met my wife shortly after I figured out how to get rid of my anger, and we just celebrated our 41st wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
So
yeah.
I can tell you that would not have happened if I hadn't understood my anger at a much deeper level than most people do today, and that's being taught today.
Yeah.
I'm really flabbergasted that we do such a poor job of teaching people in school, let's say, about a lot of things. I mean, we don't teach kids about relationships at all.
Right.
And we certainly don't teach them about emotions. And if we do, we don't teach them anything that really helps them.
Right.
So one of my missions in life is to change the way young people are educated in schools about emotions, about relationships, because I think it's a huge, life skill that we all need to have. So that's what
Absolutely.
I've been doing. I've been teaching people for over 40 years now, the things that I learned back then that made a huge impact in my life, and that again, I'm not seeing hardly anybody else communicate or teach.
Right. And I think one thing that and I've done some other trainings as well. Recently, did like timeline therapy and hypnotherapy, master NLP technician practitioner. And one of the things that I think all of those programs have that's similar to yours, not identical, but similar, because again, I've done Dr. Mort's training, but is that idea of you have to take responsibility for where you are, for what you're thinking, and how that story is allowing you to either make reasonable responses or just react. And it's your responsibility to make those changes. If you're
Well,
always blaming the other person, it's never going to make a difference.
uh, the problem is we get into that conversation about responsibility. It often turns people off, and they
Sure.
shut down,
Yeah.
and they can't access what we're trying to show them or point to. And the reason it gets back to the poor education we have about emotions, because when you understand emotions correctly, nobody has to convince you that you're responsible. You realize, oh, I am responsible.
Right. Right.
That's the only way anger gets created, is if my brain creates it. There's nothing to do, well, not that it has nothing to do, but you can trigger me. You can do things that'll trigger me, let's say, and that's part of the story, but it's only the trigger.
Right.
Your behavior that triggers me is not a cause of my anger. It's just a trigger. The actual cause of what's causing my anger is what my brain is telling me about how to interpret and look at your behavior.
Yeah.
And like you say, the stories that my brain is feeding me, it's all invisible.
Right.
Okay. So we don't see that happening. We see your behavior and we feel our anger. And it
Right.
looks like that's how anger gets caused, is one causes two. But actually, it's a four-step process, not a two-step process. There's three causes before you get angry. The first one's a trigger, but then the second and third ones are going on in your brain, and they're invisible. And then you feel the anger.
Yeah.
So it's not one, two, it's one, two, three, four.
Right.
And when you realize it's one, two, three, four, you realize that two and three are happening inside you. And without two and three, anger doesn't happen. The only place it gets created is inside you. So of course you're responsible, not to blame, okay?
Right.
But the way anger works, the only way a human being gets angry is when our brain activates in response to something and feeds us some stories, and we believe the stories,
Right.
and then we get the feeling that goes along with believing the stories. But it happens lightning fast, and it's invisible. We don't see the stories. All we see is like reality. The stories look like we're perceiving reality,
Right.
and there's no storytelling going on. But our
Yeah.
brain is literally telling us a story and filtering. It's leaving stuff out. It may be distorting things. It may be getting things wrong or making assumptions. All this invisible. You can't see it. But
Right.
once you understand that that's how anger gets created, it's like, well, of course, then I guess I am responsible. It's like it's nothing. It's like saying, I've got two arms and two legs. It's
Yeah.
like it's just what's so, and that's how I walk, and that's how I do things with my hands. It's like, am I responsible for walking? Of course.
Yes.
Who
Yeah.
else is doing? Who else is doing it?
And it's funny because we're more than happy to take responsibility for our good emotions. Like I can make
Yeah,
myself happy and I can make myself calm and peaceful. But
yeah.
anger, nope, that's all your fault.
Yes, that whole idea that that you made me angry,
Yeah.
and stop it, stop doing what you're doing so I don't have to feel angry. But it's never the case that you made me angry. It's you did what you did, and maybe what you did wasn't a great thing,
Right.
okay? But regardless of what you did, the only way I get angry is when I make myself angry in response to it, and it's not like it's not nebulous as to how that happens. It's very specific what the brain does. And you can teach people, like you went through my training program, it's three basic stories for all emotions. All emotions really boil down to three stories your brain tells you. And anger has three stories, and fear has three stories, and guilt has three stories, and worry has three stories. And the positive emotions, they all have their stories that go along with them. So, and they're all invisible. But when someone helps you understand what they are, then and you could actually write them down on an index card or a sticky note or something, and then it like gives you X-ray vision into what your brain is doing. So every time from that point forward, you get angry, you go, okay, now I know exactly why I'm angry, because I bought into these three stories. Doesn't mean the stories are true.
Right.
It just means that my brain is trying to convince me that they're true. And if I go along with that, then I'll feel angry.
Right. Right.
If
Can you?
if I want to question whether they're true or not and figure out if some of them aren't true, then I might be able to get rid of my anger very quickly
Right.
without having to punch anything or run 5 miles or do deep breathing,
Right.
which may calm you down a little bit, but it's not addressing the root causes of your emotion.
Yeah, and so that's what I was alluding to when I was doing the intro. That, punching the pillow or screaming into the pillow or going for a run or working
Yeah.
out or journaling or whatever, that's the management side of it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's just dealing with the symptoms. It's not dealing
And
with the
it's not
story.
to say it's bad. It's not to say
Right.
it's bad. It's just limited because you're just like you say, all it does is really help you with the symptoms after you've already gotten angry.
Right.
And you're probably going to, if that's all you do is manage the symptoms when you're probably going to keep getting angry like I did when I was in my 20s and 30s. Didn't matter what I managed. I still woke up every day and I was still the same angry guy.
Right.
I was still generating the anger and I didn't know how I was
Right.
doing or how my brain was doing that. Once you understand how you're generating the anger, then you have a fighting chance in the game. Now you can step in and you can say, all right, well, let me see if what my brain is telling me is true or not. And when you start asking those kinds of questions and really tell the truth, you go, oh, I think my brain tricked me here, or made me
What
think this, and that's not really. And I know now, I can look at it now, and just from my life wisdom, I go, that's not really the true story or the whole story. There's more to
right.
it, or you start to see things more truthfully, and it changes the way you look at them. And when you change the way you look at something, the emotion just dissolves
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
see the situation differently now. You
Yeah.
go like, oh, there's nothing really. I did no reason to get angry now that I see it the way I see it.
Right. And it's
Yeah.
it's almost like that cognitive bias that you believe a certain story. So everything you see in the world around you supports that story,
Yes.
whether it's right or wrong. And that's really when the brain gets telling those stories, those three stories, that's what that's all about, right? You're just seeing things from that lens. You got those rose colored glasses on or whatever they
Yeah.
call them.
Or brown colored glasses.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not, and it's not limited to emotions. I mean, our brain's telling a story all day long about all kinds of things. So, for example, when people get divorced, they start telling themselves a story.
Right.
The story is I'm a failure
Right.
in relationships. So the divorce becomes like this big failure story that's sometimes hard to recover from.
Yes.
A
Yeah.
lot of people, stay sort of, they're not really damaged, but it's like they're permanently damaged because they have this story about what the divorce means.
Right.
It means that they're a failure, it means that they're not good at love, or they're not lovable, or they can't have a good relationship, or whatever. Okay.
Right.
But it's all BS. The truth is, yeah, the truth is, yes, you failed. You had a goal, live happily ever after. You chose a partner, you tried to make it work, and it didn't work. Okay, so in one sense, the story is yes, it was a failure,
Right.
but that doesn't mean divorce has to end up as a failure story.
Right.
It can end up as a tremendous success story if you learn from it and grow from it and figure out what went wrong and what you didn't know at the time and learn like how to understand anger so that when you go into your next relationship, you don't repeat the same cycle again.
Yeah.
Or you don't poison your kids with all the residual anger that you have, even after the divorce is over and the papers are signed and all that stuff, if you're walking around with a ton of anger, it's being spread around and people are getting the brunt of it, and it affects their lives too. So there's all kinds of reasons why you want to learn and grow from an event like a divorce. Make sure you don't have it end up as a failure story, have it end up the opposite, have it end up as a success story. I like the story I like to tell about one. I often talk about resilience, and people talk about resilience as bouncing back. You get
Right.
knocked down, you get up. Well, yeah, I mean, if you use I like to use a tennis ball as an example. You take a tennis ball and you smash it with your racket against the wall. When it hits your racket, it gets compressed and it loses its round shape.
Right.
It's flattened and it hits the wall. And then when it comes back, it expands again. And by the time it comes back to you, it comes back as a round tennis ball.
Right.
It's recovered, it's rebounded and regained its prior state before you smashed it, flattened it temporarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, every time you hit a tennis ball against the wall, it always comes back as a tennis ball. It doesn't come back as any other kind of ball. It doesn't
Right.
come back as a basketball or a beach ball or something bigger and better. It only comes back as what it was before. But we as human beings, when we get knocked down, or we get a bad thing that happens to us, we have the ability to come back and different and better and stronger and wiser. And it doesn't happen automatically. You got to put in some work to make that happen. But we have the opportunity to have a setback like a divorce,
Right.
have it be real demoralizing and real painful, and be in the woe is me phase for a while, and then realize, what can I learn from this? What can I improve from this? How can I make sure this doesn't happen again in my next relationship, or I don't damage my kids now going forward,
Right.
or damage my own health or career or whatever? What can I learn about what happened? What can I learn about anger? That's what I like to start off telling people. What you first need to do is learn about anger, because that's the key to all the other emotions.
Right.
If
Yes.
you understand anger, how it works, you understand all the other emotions work the same way. And then that leads you into, okay, well, what didn't I understand about relationships, over and above the emotional part? And
Right.
there's a lot of things we get wrong about relationships. We think we understand, but we don't.
Yep.
Or we
I agree.
understand backwards.
Yes.
Whatever our understanding is, it's going to cause us to fail. So, I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can learn as a result of having the reality check of, okay, I tried this and I failed. I guess it means I didn't know everything I needed to know to succeed. It's not that you are a failure.
Right.
It's just you were not educated properly.
Right.
None of us were. I mean, I went through all school, great college, medical school, additional training outside of medical school. I didn't learn any of this stuff.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
had to
you're
go
right.
dig around. I had to dig around for it myself, and fortunately, I was lucky enough to latch onto something that finally worked. But that's the goal is, you want to go back, you want to bounce back better and bigger and wiser,
Right.
and have less chance of something like that happening again. Where we know a lot of times people repeat the same patterns.
Yes. Yes.
And they get into another relationship or get married and they get divorced again, and they get married, they get divorced again, because they never learn the lessons that are there to learn. And
Right.
that's what I really like doing. To me, it's still an expression of being a physician. When I was practicing medicine, I was saving lives,
Yeah. Right.
and that was gratifying. Now I'm not practicing medicine anymore, but I feel like I'm saving relationships.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
I'm saving marriages when I can. I'm saving second marriages when people don't get to me in time, before they get divorced. So that's my goal, is to still, empower people, make people be as healthy and well as they possibly can. And I like starting out with showing them how to deal with anger, because it opens the door to everything else. And when the shifts that you have to make conceptually and in terms of taking responsibility, because it's true,
Right.
they all pay dividends in other areas of your life as well, not just emotions.
Well, and I think I think that whole idea, there's a saying that people use a lot in the divorce industry is get better, not bitter when you go through your divorce. And that's the letting go of all that anger, not letting go, but learning how to deal with it in a way that doesn't need management. It eliminates it because you're able to, if something happens, if a guy cuts you off on the freeway driving at 80 miles an hour, most people, that's a trigger and they're going to start screaming and yelling. And, we all know about road rage stories where these things get crazy out of control. If you just stopped and thought, that guy is not trying to cut me off. Maybe he's distracted. Maybe, what could be going on instead of just assuming that guy was trying to kill me. And that's the first thought.
Well, that's what that's the story your brain is telling you. And it's very hard to realize that there could be other perspectives or other ways of looking at it. But in fact, that's how you do it. But the problem here is you can't just tell somebody, don't be bitter or stop being bitter.
Right.
They can't do anything with that. What I like to do is I'm going to show you how to not be bitter.
Right.
First, I'm going to show you why you're bitter, what your brain is doing to you to make you bitter that you can't see right now. Okay. But once I show it to you, you'll see it all over the place.
Right.
And it'll always be there. So I'll show you what's going on. And then I'll show you how you can use that knowledge of what your brain is doing to make you bitter or angry or whatever. So that you can question the reality of what your brain is telling you.
Right.
Know? And like you say, you may realize, oh, wait a second, is it really true that this person who cut me off in traffic was intentionally trying to get at me?
Right.
or hurt me or make me feel scared or nervous? And no, usually the answer is no.
Right.
They were doing whatever, who knows what they were doing. They may have been just gotten a call and, they have an emergency situation and they're trying to get there fast, or they're just not paying attention,
right?
Which can happen to any of us. But
sure,
they're not personally, have an agenda against you per se.
Yeah,
unless they do, unless you maybe cut them off and you didn't realize it, and now they're paying you back, but your brain forgot to mention to you that you had cut them off, so it deleted that whole thing, if that's true, if that's what happened, and the guy's now seeking revenge against you for how he feels you did something against him,
right?
He or she.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, our brain is constantly editing and deleting and storytelling,
right?
That may or may not be true.
It's funny because in NLP training, we do this, what they call that is delete, distort, and generalize. And that's the only way that the brain can process the large amount of information it has to take in. So it just kind of goes, oh, this looks like something that happened to me in 1962. So that's what it is today. It's like,
if you actually, and there have been people who have actually measured, if you measure the amount of data bits from the world that's coming into our senses per second or per millisecond, it's enormous. It's in the billions, and our brains cannot possibly take it all in and process it all and show it all to us. It would overwhelm us. So millions of years ago or hundreds of thousands of years ago, our brains realized, to keep this person alive, I've got to simplify things for him or her. I've got to chunk it down. I've got to make it manageable. I've got to cut out extraneous stuff. Just show him him or her what's important. What's essential for their survival. What's essential for their goals that they're trying to achieve. And it literally takes that whole universe of data and it narrows it down.
Yeah.
It edits it.
Yeah.
All right. Just like a news media outlet does. They can't tell you every story that happened yesterday in the world.
Right. Yeah.
In every location in the world. They can't. Yep. They're going to decide, maybe there's 6 or 8 stories that are going to be on the news that night. So they have to pick from all the possible stories and they'll leave all the rest of them out.
Right.
And then say, here's what happened today.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
But that's not what happened today. It's just a little tiny piece of what happened today. And then they'll take those stories. They're not going to tell you the whole story about those stories. They're only going to tell you the parts of it that they want to tell you for you to have the impression they want you to have about that story.
Yeah.
Okay, from whatever their agendas are or their
Sure.
biases are. Or whatever. So
Yeah.
so you're never getting the truth about what happened yesterday. You know,
Exactly.
you, and our brains are doing the exact same thing. It's like having your own little newsroom in your head.
Yeah.
Constantly editing and shooting out stories and making you believe them, and then
Exactly.
you feel the way you feel based on believing those stories.
Exactly. Dr. Mort, I think we could talk about this for a long time. I know we could because you and I have been on calls where we talked about this for a long time. But I really appreciate you sharing all this. And I can't believe 25 minutes can go by so quickly. You have such insight around this. What is one, I'm asking everybody this at the end of the Spotlight on the Divorce Expert series. What's one tip that you would give anybody going through divorce that's going to make it a better process for them?
Well, my understanding of divorce and anger, linking the two together, is there's a lot of anger involved in the whole process. There's a lot of anger that probably led to the divorce in the first place. You get into the divorce, and there's a ton of anger that gets generated as you go through the process usually. And then after everything's signed and sealed, there's still a lot of lingering leftover anger at your ex or co-parenting situations, or you just see their picture on social media. There's just anger, 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 all three,
Yeah.
sections of that. So I think it's really sad that you would go through that and not make it a priority to learn something new about anger that will serve you going forward.
Yeah.
That you can learn about all three of whatever anger came up in all three of those time periods. It's all the same. And then the brain produces it the same way. It doesn't matter what the triggering events are. So it behooves you to learn
Yeah.
and grow from it and become a better, stronger person so that you literally can turn that story around from a failure story to a success story because you now know how not to let anger screw up your life.
Yeah.
Or your
Thank you.
kid's life, or
Yeah.
your next partner's life, and that's something everybody should want to gain from a divorce. We don't really talk about gaining from it, but that's one thing that everybody can gain.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Dr. Mort has provided a gift for everybody. Can you just real quick give us a little teaser of your gift?
You'll have to remind me which gift I told you about.
You know what? And I knew you were going to ask me that. It is Best Cure Anger, Best Anger Cure.
Yes.
It gives you, I think, access to 5 gifts that come with your book.
That's a little different. That's when people buy the book. It's inside the book. There's a free gift for buying the book where you can get those 5 gifts. But usually I have a downloadable PDF that gives people more information about anger, more information about what we're talking about, the methodology that I've developed around how you understand those 3 stories and what you can do with that information.
Okay.
So that's what they would get in that handout, and you'll probably have the link to it in your
Excellent. The link is in there. And just last question, how can people reach out to you? What's the best way to find out more about what you do?
Best way is to go to my website. It's docorman.com. You can see it above my head. That's my email address. If you want to email me, it's doc@docorman.com.
Gotcha. It's up there. It's the green.
That's the website, and you can get all kinds of information
and
about me there.
Yeah, definitely grab a copy of Dr. Mort's books. They're fantastic, really easy to read and really practical. Thank you so much for being here and sharing this information. And I know people are going to resonate with this because anger is a big thing today, and it's something that people are working through. So, Dr. Mort, Thank you so much for being here today.
Great. Always wonderful to talk with you. Thanks.
And thank you for listening in to this episode of Spotlight on the Divorce Expert. And don't forget, if you like this, subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Be happy to answer.